What I want to do today is to show you all how you can do a test. It's a really easy test to do, and you'll be surprised how informative the results are. I need to let you know so I'm going to be pulling out a volunteer in a while, so if you need to leave the room, now's the time to do it. You'll avoid being publicly humiliated. So we do chalk mark testing or first click testing as an easy way to determine how well a homepage or a significant landing page is working. It's a really simple way to actually test to see whether people understand where they need to go from a page you give them. And the thing that we test for is their first click. So where we give people a scenario, we say go and do something, and then we watch where they actually click on a page, and that first click is actually very significant. What happened was about 15 years ago, some guys working on the CDC government side in America were doing tests on users, and they found that when people got their first click correct, then the chance of the whole journey or task being correct was at 87%. But they found that when people got their first click wrong, it was less than 50% chance of people actually completing their whole user journey. So there got to be this kind of field of study where people started to think about, okay, how do we design home pages so that the initial journey, the initial start point of the journey was very clear and obvious, because that's going to really assist with making websites usable. Today we do it a lot. It's a very quick and easy test to do. It doesn't require a lot of setup. We've also got some automated tools where we can actually share a first click test online with external users. So we did a test, I think, for Sterling a couple of years ago, where we could very easily get 60 users to do a test for us. Got some really good quantifiable results from it. Okay, so a bit of a how-to. First of all, you need to come up with some scenarios to test. So you need to be very careful about how you phrase these scenarios. I'll give you an example of a scenario. A scenario could be, you have recently bought a pet and need to go and register it. It's a very simple test. It gives you a small bit of background. It tells you what to go and do. What you've got to be careful of is when you're doing your scenarios, you don't want to be giving the user too many hints as to what they're looking for. So if you go and tell them, look for the pet registration payment page, you've actually given them a lot of clues as to what they're looking for. And they can even just type in pet registration, or they can actually look for that phrase on the page. So you need to be careful that you phrase your scenarios in a way that's more generic and actually gets them to think in a kind of a more natural way. I'll give you an example. So we have what we call leading scenarios and non-leading, and you need to make them non-leading so you don't give too many clues away. An example would be, where would you go to find information on the group aqua fitness sessions that are run by the City of Brisbane? So as soon as you do that, you've told them group aqua fitness sessions. It's a very concise, easy thing to go and look for. What you could actually say to them is something a little bit more generic. You could go, you want to get fit. Where would you go and find local swimming pool group fitness classes? Where would you click to begin? It's a little more generic. It might appear to be a little bit more vague, but it's getting the user to start thinking in their own language what they need to look for. Another example could be, where would you go to get your residential building application processed? As a non-leading question, that could be, the place you're bought is actually a little small. You need to think about adding an extension. You've been told that the city actually may not allow your extension. Where would you go to find out information? A lot more generic. It's maybe a little more circular, but you're getting the user to think in their own words and their own language about what they were doing. Okay, So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a first click test and I'm going to be picking out a volunteer. I'm going to be going over to that laptop there because we actually need to be showing everybody else what we're doing on the screen. And because I'm going to pull out you in the green shirt. Anybody who comes along with green shirt and blonde hair needs to do a user test. So just to let you know, so this test is actually not a test of the user's ability. What this is the user actually providing feedback to you on how they perceive, how they interact with the site. This is very careful. You need to actually make this really clear to anybody doing the test. It's not a success or fail test of their ability. It is a success or fail test of the interface that they'll be interacting with. So, don't stress. Let's go through these results, and there's a little chart down below. It's actually really useful to give us an idea about the success of these scenarios. So, I did a test yesterday with a heap of people from Alika. So Nick and Tennille up the back there, they were part of the testing team. The trouble with Nick and Tennille was they both took this on as a competition. I just spent a lot of time pacifying them, saying, "No, it's not. It's a test of the interface, not a test of your ability." But at the end of it, everybody's really anxious to know what was my score compared to everybody else. Did I get it right or wrong? The chart below is an automatic chart that shows everybody's feedback, everybody's results. And if you just scroll down a smidge, so for every scenario, we've recorded two things. We've recorded whether it's been successful or not. So we know the page, and we can tell there's several places on the page the user can click that will lead successfully to the correct page. So we know when it's a success or fail. What we're also doing is recording their time. So for a page to support a scenario, to be designed successfully around a scenario, the average time should be low, the success rate should be high. So when we look at this information here, if we actually see a really high red bar, which means that the time for each task is really high, it means we have a problem with that scenario. If we also see a low green bar, it means the number of the successes was also low. So we can actually see on this that for rates, there's a poor success rate in actually achieving it. The average time, although it's quite low, is we found people were actually accidentally, inadvertently clicking on the wrong link. They were scanning down a page, they were seeing the wrong item and clicking on it. So if we were actually designing the City of Brisbane webpage, we would be looking at how rates are displayed because we actually see an issue with it. With the pool scenario, everybody was fairly consistent in the amount of time they took, other than yourself. You nailed it. Not that it was a competition. And for aged care, once again, everybody was pretty consistent. But the remarkable thing about this really easy test is if you start to do this with 8 or 10 users, you're getting some really good, accurate user data that will tell you how your page is performing. This is a test all of you can do. Write some good scenarios, give them a page, record them, see if they were successful or not. Use this spreadsheet to drop it in and you'll be able to have some good quantifiable results about how your page is performing. So yeah.
What's sort of too long? Is there a benchmark for how long it should take?
So a couple of things we do there. The first test anybody does is generally the longest because they're becoming familiar with the page. So when we do it over a large number of users, we randomise it and we swap the first scenario around. Usually we don't try and go for a minimum time. Generally we like less than 10 seconds. But even if people spend 30 seconds and they feel as though they're getting somewhere, that's okay. And it's comparative. Like if somebody takes 20 seconds across everything, that's the user just taking their time. So we try not to set absolute benchmarks on what's good and what's bad. But yeah, so we'll be sending out a link to this spreadsheet after this workshop. When you get it, when you get the link, just take a copy of it. So just do file copy, or create a new one from it. It's actually duplicate, I think is the command, file duplicate. It should then duplicate in your own Google Drive, and you can use it and muck around with it. We really encourage you to do this kind of as much as possible when you've done any kind of new design, or if you've got somebody that can actually do a mock-up of a design for you. You don't actually even need the web page. You can just show them an image and ask them to point where they would click. It's a really great little test. We hope you'll pick it up. It's something we use a lot. So.